Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome to my beautiful kitchen. In place of not having one in a classroom, this is where I get to spend most of my time here at home. So today we're going to learn a new technique. Now, I've showed you guys videos on how to do this. So for my Culinary 2 students, we are going to learn how to make homemade bread. Now, there's different ways you can make this. One common ingredient that every bread has yeast. We have two different kinds of yeast here. We have active dry and rapid rise. So why do we have two kinds of yeast? If you see them in the market, you're going to wonder which one should I get. If you're baking the bread or bread product the same day and you want it to rise a little bit quicker, then the rapid rise is a good idea. This could rise in about 45 minutes to an hour for most loaf breads. The other one is one that would work as well. It might take a little bit longer. It might take like 2 hours for it to rise the loaf bread. But the other thing is if you're going to make them for tomorrow. So let's say you're doing a big feast, Thanksgiving, you're making dinner rolls or something like that. Then what you can do is use this, put the rolls into the oven, into your fridge. And what will happen is they'll be ready to go the next day and you can bake them. And they won't overproof, they won't get too large and rise too much. So today we're going to use the rapid rise yeast. Now the bread I'm going to make is a little different. This is not a loaf bread. This is what we call peasant bread. I'm not sure where the name came from, but what we're going to do is only 4 ingredients. The only ingredients are flour, yeast, salt, and hot water. So if you have those 3 ingredients, you can make this dish. Now there's another thing you would need, but it wouldn't have to be, this is a Dutch oven. Just bought this the other day, and so this is something that you could cook on the stove. You could raise things on the stove, made of porcelain, and you could put stuff in there and put it into the oven and cook it through something called convection cooking. And convection means that you have the lid on, it's cooking, and the heat and the air will circulate within the pan to cook the food. You could be braising this, some beef or doing other things like that, but today we're going to use it to cook bread. Now, if you don't have one of these things, there are other options you can get. If you have, I don't have one of these with me right now, but you can get a cast iron skillet that has a lid on it that's a little bit deep, and if you have something like that, you could use that replacement, or you could do a cookie sheet. You could put your bread on some parchment paper on a cookie sheet, and then you could put something like a pot that would fit over it that is oven safe. And then in doing so, that will let the air circulate and cook the bread. We're not getting around to this part for a while, so. Now, this is a recipe, and the name of the video, which I have put into the classroom, is called Faster No Knead Bread. So what is kneading? Kneading is when you're basically using and forming the dough with your hands to be able to kind of like get it soft and flexible and the right texture, and basically activate the gluten in the product you're making, be it loaf bread or whatever you're going to make. You can have a kneading machine, which I have over here, and I'm going to show you another recipe. I'm going to make a whole wheat loaf bread, which I'm going to knead in that, and I will show you partially through that how to actually manually knead. So you can do it through a machine, you can do it by hand, either way works. So what do we have here today? This is my mise en place. We've got the yeast. I've already pre-measured the yeast here. Got it right here, and you got your measuring spoons at all times. This is 1/4 teaspoon of yeast. So what I did is I cut open a packet, measured it. It's just a portion of this, so you don't need the whole packet. Not for this particular bread. Now, there are breads you would use the whole packet. Just make sure you read it clearly or measure it. Then, we got our sea salt, our flour, and our hot water that I've already pre-measured here. And then we got our salt, pre-measured. Cutting board we're going to use to knead the dough on. But this one takes a while. So I'm going to real quickly mix the ingredients. I'm going to cover it with plastic wrap, and I'm going to set it aside in kind of a cool place in my kitchen, and then I'm going to let that rise. And that might take 3 to 4 hours. So it kind of depends. But we'll see how it is. And it depends on the humidity in the air and all sorts of different factors. But we'll watch that. And then after that, we will take it out. We'll do a quick little rolling it into a dough shape, like kind of a round like round bread shape. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put it into a preheated Dutch oven with the lid on, into the oven, cook it for about 30 minutes, take it out, take the lid off, keep on cooking it for about another 10 to 15 minutes to make it crusty on the top, and then you're done. And then the hardest part is waiting after the bread is cooked, because your house is going to smell like bread, and the first thing you want to do is to put the butter on it immediately. But don't do that. You need for the bread to solidify a little bit longer. So 10, 15, 30 minutes is best after you've made the bread and you have it sitting on your cooling rack as such. So let's get started. So what do we have to do? So let's follow the recipe. So now the first thing we need to do is mix all of our dry ingredients together, and then we add the hot water into the dry ingredients. So now this warm water is a little cool, I think. I need to get a little bit hotter, so 1 second here. Okay, so while that is heating up on my faucet, I had the water sitting here for a while and it cooled down a little bit. It's actually very hot. So, little delay here. But what we're going to do is I'll start measuring the rest of the ingredients. So let's move these out of the way if you don't need these anymore. Oh, and also these are oven thermometers. Let me talk about these. So I've been having a problem with my oven recently, and so when I cook something, this thermometer has been telling me that it's cooking anywhere from 25 to 50 plus degrees too cool. And I thought, well, I don't know if the oven's broken, I don't know if this is broken, and so I went and got another one, and now this one is saying the same thing. So apparently I've got a problem with the oven, so I have to adjust it, so hopefully this turns out right. I have to increase the heat, make sure it's at the right temperature, and then at that point in time, then I can cook the bread. So I'm going to be using both of these today when I'm cooking it. So we'll put those aside for now. Okay. Now we have 1.5 cups of very hot water. Okay, so here's how we make it. This is incredibly easy to make. The preparation is going to take me 10 minutes probably at the most. 5 minutes maybe. Then I'm going to basically just let it sit in the counter for 3 to 4 hours and let it rise. So I'm just going to leave it alone, and I'll come back and finish this video later once that is done. So, and also I got this beautiful light coming in here. So I've got this professional lighting here. In fact, I'm going to turn my light on here and make it a little bit brighter. And I got light coming in from outside, so really got the natural light coming in. I got these beautiful umbrella lights here, so it allows me to hopefully show this to you a little bit more clearly. So since we are done with the yeast, and we're done with measuring spoons, let's put those out of the way. And the only thing we really need here is our measuring cups. Also, I have a spatula. This is a really heavy-duty rubber spatula. I'm going to use this to actually move around the dough and mix it together. And lastly, I didn't show you this. This is a dough scraper. Dough scraper, we'll show you when we actually have the dough and it's risen. We're going to use that to kind of scrape around the dough because it can get a little sticky, especially this is a very sticky dough. So I'll just kind of scrape around it, lift it off the cutting board or whatever surface you're using to do so. I could even do it on my prep table here, which is a metal surface. So either one of the two would have been perfectly acceptable. But I thought this looked a little more attractive, so I laid down some beautiful yellow matting and so forth. So anyway, so this we're not going to need for a while, so we're going to put this aside. So the only things we really need right now are the dry ingredients, which is the flour, the yeast, the salt, and then the warm water. So how much do we need? 3 cups of all-purpose flour. Now, you could do one of 2 things if you wanted. I got a 1 cup measure. I took the flour from this container and I put it in here because it's easier to put a scooper in it. So what I need to do now is another thing on my need to buy list is a very big ball mason jar. One of those real large ones. You can put the flour into it and then you can easily fit the scooping in, and you can use this to measure your flour. As an improv, what I did is I put it into 2 different baggies, make sure it's safe, and I can just dip in here easier. The bags here are too tiny, it's hard to do that. So one other thing, flour, always have a regular knife. And we'll show you why in a second. Okay, so let's go and measure. So I'm going to use the 1 cup measuring cup. Don't need the half. Okay. And I'm just going to measure it out. And I kind of scrape it on the sides a little bit like so. I find this is an easy way to do it too. Now, if you want another way, take the back side of the knife, like this, and it will be the most accurate measure of flour you can get. Now, the best thing you can do if you have a scale is use a scale to weigh the flour. It's one of those ingredients that it will be as accurate as possible. This is pretty darn accurate, but so I'm just going to put 1 cup. Okay. I'm going to get 2 cups. Flatten it out. You notice there's just a little bit left. There's a little bit in the cup that's a little bit in excess. And then we'll do 1 more cup of flour. Also, I figured it was a little chilly today, so today's beanie day. This is one of the beanies I got of recent when I went up to, I think it was in Ojai. I went to Ojai with my wifey over the break, summer break. And so that was really fun. But I found all sorts of cool clothes, and I found the beanie. I like this kind of weather. I find it much more enjoyable than the hot weather. Okay, so now we've got our flour. Now, you're going to need the extra flour, so don't put it away yet, because we're going to use it to basically, we're going to have to dust on the cutting surface, be it the board, metal, whatever you're going to use, and then you're going to put the flour onto that surface. So in this case, I'm going to use a cutting board, and it's the way it's because it's going to be very sticky dough. So you're going to real liberally, coat flour on this. You're going to shape the dough. You might put a little bit on top of it and mix it in. So you're going to need to go back to the flour shortly here. So, okay, so now what else do we have? We have the yeast and the salt, pre-measured. Oops, let's get that out of there. Okay, I don't need those anymore. Okay, so now we're just going to mix these together. Just mix them real good. Like I say, this is one of the simplest doughs you can make, 4 ingredients only. And if you don't have a Dutch oven, as I mentioned, you can use any other kind of steel thing that can fit from your stove into the oven itself. Make sure you don't put anything with wood on it or anything that could burn or anything like that. But this is all metal and it's basically ceramic, so it's and it just kind of steams the bread. This is kind of like I say, it's called a peasant bread. Maybe that's just because there's not many ingredients. I really do not know why. So now, what we did, we mixed the dry ingredients. Now we're going to add the hot water and mix it together. So let's mix the hot water in there. And we're going to mix it together. Now I know it's hard, and I'll show you once I mix it what it looks like here. It's going to be a very sticky dough. So if it's a little bit stickier than you would normally do if you make bread. Now I'm going to make another bread, which is a standard wheat bread, and that is one that's not sticky at all. So this one I'm just going to have to, and at some point, if you want, you can just get your hands dirty and put your hands into this thing and start, and notice what it's going to do. It's going to start forming kind of a ball here. I don't know if you can see that. Like this, and it's very sticky, and it will start going away from the sides of the bowl a little bit too. Okay, so, and it doesn't have to be anything, huge here. But again, we're just going to try to mix it up thoroughly, and you can see here it's very, very sticky. So you can use your knife, you can use your hands. I cleaned my hands before I did this, so. Make sure you clean your hands. Remember food safety. You don't want anybody getting sick. So, okay, so there you go. And look at the dough. It's real sticky, right? Okay. This is normal. This is what it should be on this kind of bread. Not all breads are going to be like this. It just depends on, the recipe and how to make it. But anyway, so that is the bread. So now I'm just going to kind of massage it a little bit with my hands. And again, you might have to have some water handy because it does get really, really sticky here, as you can see here. So I'm got way too sticky here. So let me wash my hands real quick. Okay, so again, it's very, very sticky dough. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some plastic wrap on this, and I'm going to let it rise. And this is going to take, like I said, 3 to 4 hours to do this. So this is a little stickier than I thought it was going to be. You know, I've never made this recipe before, so this is my first opportunity to do so, and apparently it's stickier than I really thought it was going to be than when I saw the recipe. But this is a video that I watched on this recipe, faster no knead bread. So now what we're going to do, another little cleanup. Now I'm going to get my plastic wrap. Okay. And wrap it real good here. Okay. And I'm going to wrap it again. Trouble with this plastic wrap. It's always a challenge, you know. Okay, so we just want to seal this completely, and what we're going to let the dough do is we're going to let it cool. Like I said, it's going to take probably 3 to 4 hours to do this. So we just have to give it time to do what it needs to do naturally with the yeast. And by the way, yeast is a living organism. So it is alive, and when you put the hot water in with the yeast, that activates it. So if it doesn't rise, oh, and also let me mention one other thing. One of the reasons it may not rise. Okay, so when you buy the yeast, really, really important. Look at the back of the yeast packet, and it's going to tell you the expiration date because this is a live, living organism. And like I said, it activates with the hot water. It will also activate even faster if you put sugar in. It's like honey, tiny bit of sugar. It just eats the sugar and makes it grow. So this one expires on August 2nd, 2024. So I know this is good. But if you have anything that's close to the expiration date, throw it away. What's going to happen, it will not rise at all. And in doing so, you're not going to have that lovely, delicious bread. So anyway, so make sure you check the back of the packages and get one that is not expired. So that's it, guys. So now I'm just going to let it sit here for a while. I will be back when this is done rising. So it's going to be probably about 6:30 in the evening when I do this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to then put it into the Dutch oven with the parchment paper, and then I'm going to let it rise, and then I'm going to put it in here, cook it for about a half hour, and then we're going to let it get real crispy and yummy and smell the house deliciously. So anyway, so that's it for the moment. I will be back soon and show you the rest of the video. Thanks.